Radio. Sunday is Earth Day. Remember the first Earth Day for us older kids here on the radio program? That was April 22nd, 1970. I think I was a sophomore in high school, Glenn. And in a Catholic high school, we kind of stopped for the day and watched this Earth Day unfold. And it was in New York City, and hundreds of thousands of people descended on New York City, other cities across the country. Because if you think about what our environment was like in 1970, it's certainly not quite as clean as it is today. And it's also the focus of Laudato Si. Of course, that's the papal encyclical, Pope Francis's encyclical, Laudato Si, on care for our common home. Earth Day is coming up this Sunday. Let's talk about that now with Joe Meyer, the founder, the director of the Laudato Si project, which was created in response to the papal encyclical. Joe is joining us from Milwaukee today. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, John and Glenn.
Do you think today, and especially when we see how young people are getting so involved in so many projects, including a project to keep the earth as clean as possible, the power of Laudato Si is stronger now because of the timing? Had it come out maybe even just a few years ago, very early into the pontificate of Francis?
Right. I think it is a really strong message right now. And I think part of that has to do with how Pope Francis set the stage for an encyclical like this. People were immediately drawn to him and his authenticity and his life. And people beyond just Catholics and Christians were really drawn to the way he's living his life. And through Laudato Si, I feel like people can relate to that and really want to change because they want to live authentically. They want to make a difference. And for us as Catholics, I think connecting that with our faith is just so crucial.
How do you have the conversation about Laudato Si? And I remember you and I have had this conversation, and when Laudato Si was first published on Care for Our Common Home a couple of years ago, there was the debate, well, here's the Holy Father getting into global warming and things that he shouldn't be getting into. That's an inevitable part of the conversation. How do you deal with someone who brings up that very point?
Yeah, I think so many times with these sorts of things, they get politicized and entrenched in an ideology so quick, namely kind of liberal with environmental stewardship. And I think for us as Catholics, the key is to go back to a life of virtue, right? That this is part of that life of virtue is being Catholic. And it's our call. And from our faith, that's where our stewardship is flowing from. And that's truly what's kind of giving us that motivation as Catholics. That driver of our faith, calling us to be out in the world and committed to justice and environmental stewardship, and how this connects with other parts of our faith and our commitment to the poor who are kind of disproportionately affected by these sorts of things. I think when those questions come up, kind of redirecting them to the root of our faith and this call to a life of virtue and how this is part of our faith. It's not something that Pope Francis made up, right? It's throughout church teaching, especially in the last 3 or 4 decades, all over the place in church teaching, that I think it kind of breaks down those barriers pretty quickly, and then we can move forward with it.
And as you know, Joe Meyer is the founder and the director of the Laudato Si project. As we look at this papal encyclical, a lot of what we're talking about for the families listening to us here on Relevant Radio and the Relevant Radio app happens right in the home. And it's the waste of food. It is keeping the water running when we're brushing our teeth. I mean, those simple things that we do mindlessly every single day that the Holy Father is asking us to be mindful about the next time we do them.
Yeah, and that's so true. It does start in the home and with families. And I think when you have this as part of your faith, as part of your kind of daily thought process, you can't help but change your way, just like in other parts of our faith life, right? We see the world differently in light of our faith. And I think that's true with stewardship, and often maybe not always embraced by Christians or Catholics as much as it could be. And I think that's why there's such a great opportunity here. But with families, to model that to your kids, and especially, I think, with younger people, to get them engaged and get them out in nature, creating that sense of wonder, right? We're never going to care for something that we don't love or we don't have a connection to. So getting them in love with their faith and outside and connected to nature.
How would we bring the Laudato Si project into the fabric of our parishes, our schools?
Right. So some of the things we've been doing, and I think there's opportunities at parishes and schools all over the country for this, is, themed retreats around this teaching. It's taking a while for people to really have their radar on Laudato Si, that this exists, that church teaching exists on these topics of environmental stewardship and care for our common home. So whether it's retreats or service projects have been a great thing that we've been doing a lot of. A lot of schools or parishes require service hours for teens or young people. Why not do something with environmental stewardship, but tie it to their faith, right? Not just kind of this once and done cleanup, but something that they see as part of living out this life of virtue.
You're right. It's not a one-and-done thing. It becomes a fabric of who we are and how we live. NatureCatholic.org. NatureCatholic.org is the website as we work towards Earth Day. And, of course, we'll have that focus on Sunday Earth Day. But the message of the papal encyclical from a couple of years ago on care for our common home is to really make that a part of the fabric of who we are every single day. Joe Meyer is the founder and director of the Laudato Si Project, NatureCatholic.org. Joe, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Glenn, we'll see you tonight at the Christ Brings Hope Awards Dinner in the Twin Cities. We are honoring Gordy DeMarais, the founder of St. Paul's Outreach. Patrick Madrid will be there. Father Rocky will be there. Also, Paul Sadek will be there from the Daybreak program. And, of course, Glenn, do you do a live story corner? Would you do a live story corner tonight, maybe?
Oh,
yes,
I'd love
no?
to, but that's not my job tonight, though.
Okay.
But Paul and I will be encouraging folks to buy their raffle tickets for a beautiful modern-day trip.
Ooh. That's good. And we'll bring audio highlights from the Christ Brings Hope Award Dinner in the Twin Cities tonight to you on Monday's Morning Air. Patrick Madrid coming up next. Time now, 1 minute before the hour on Relevant Radio and the Relevant Radio app.